morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Nice to see you all. I'm Mike McMillan. If I haven't introduced myself before, I'm the middle school principal. Thanks for coming to our middle school partnerships talk today. Our goal today is just sort of to reintroduce ourselves, talk about some of the things we're working on in the middle school this year, introduce some new people to our team, and think about some of the most important things that bring us together at the end. It is all about partnership. It is all about trust. And it's, well, as you can see, we have some phones and social media at the end too, which is something that is big in our life and certainly something that we deal with. And I think it's one area that we really need a really good partnership with parents. But overall, our goal today is just to get to know each other a little bit better and give you a chance to ask some questions too if you have them. Okay? So first off, I want to introduce our team because every year our team is new. Actually, before I do that, I want to show, and you've seen our new rosette. Taking all of our values and our attributes and our mission and getting it into one nice visual, all right, and respecting our local culture when we do so by having some, geometric shapes in there. So we posted this all over our school. Every classroom now has the rosette in it as a really good third point of reference, right, when we're talking with anybody, students, parents, when we're speaking with faculty and staff, right, to be able to say, our values, our attributes. One other little change we made that I really think is important is our attributes used to say our student profile, right? These innovative, empathetic, global citizen. It used to say that ASD students are, and we've changed that language to our students become, right? Recognizing the fact that not everybody is coming fully developed, especially our middle schoolers, right? They're developing these things. They are not these things already, and that helps us help your children become these things that we really value at our school, okay? The next one is just, we also took the attributes out of that rosette and put it into this one. It used to be on our documents internally that we use with students and with faculty. There was a whole bunch of sentences that went under each of the attributes, and we thought that reducing that down to 3 things pinpoints us a little bit more and helps students really understand, what are we talking about? When we talk about being communicators, what is that really? Rather than referencing 3 or 4 sentences, 3 words makes it a lot easier to grasp for a student so they can kind of get what we're talking about, and easier for us as well. So 2 nice things that certainly ground us in everything we do all the time. So I do want to introduce our new team. So as I said, I'm Mike. I'm lucky to be returning in my 2nd year. If you were here last year, remember this was a packed audience with everybody with masks on. There were like 120 people here. This is a much nicer crowd. I'm very happy that you're here. So I'm really fortunate to be in my 2nd year, feeling really good about where things are, the learning I did in my role last year with the team, and the team we've been able to recruit and build for this year, and the direction we're going. Something that just is in my head always with everything I'm doing is clarity and consistency. And we're really trying to bring clarity and consistency to our school throughout, from pre-K to 12, but certainly that's my focus in the middle school as well. Clarity and consistency, and I hope you see and start to feel some of those things, that we're trying to be more clear, more consistent with everything we do, and you're going to see some of that today. I'd like to introduce my new associate principal, the new associate principal, Ms. Susan Butler. She's joining us from 6 years in Brazil and some years in Kuwait before that. Sue, do you want to introduce yourself?
I'm Susan Butler. This is my 9th year as an associate principal. Wow, really? But I love any opportunity to spend time with kids, and I find as an associate principal, I was really apprehensive to leave the classroom, but I find as an associate principal, I have that direct link, so it's great. So my 9th year, as Mike said, 6 years in Brazil. Prior to that, Kuwait, but then Honduras, Kenya, Uganda, a number of different places. I'm here with my husband, Dave. So if any of you have grade 8 students, he teaches grade 8 social studies and English. Mr. Butler, he goes by, I go by Miss Susan. So he's my husband. And then I'm here with my son, Elliot, who is in grade 9. So he's embarking on high school. We're excited to be here. It's like any new move, a bit overwhelming at times. I'm in a really empty house right now as we wait a few more weeks for our shipment to arrive. But the good news is our dog is coming on Saturday. So life will be okay once our dog arrives. I can live in an empty home if our dog is with us. So yeah, but it's been great so far.
Great, thanks, Sue. And new to our team, but certainly not new to ASD, is Miss Rochelle Savoy. Yeah, round of applause. This is a huge role for me, something that I really felt as principal when I came in last year. We had a teaching and learning department, right? But not right in the middle school. And so often when it came to curriculum and assessment things, I was the go-to for curriculum assessment, and that is great. I love that side of my job, but it also can't be the whole thing I'm doing. So one thing that we did is we looked at how we were deploying our resources in the school. Rochelle has been a coach in our school for a number of years, and we changed that title from being a coach to being the teaching and learning coordinator. So really, Rochelle comes into the middle school now being in charge of our curriculum and our assessment and what we're actually teaching on a day-to-day, and she's a huge resource to our department chairs and our teachers. Rochelle, I'll just let you introduce yourself with your years here and so on.
It's quite the welcome. Hi, I'm Rochelle. I've been at ASD, this is year 8 for me. As Mike said, I previously was an instructional coach, and I started ASD as a high school social studies teacher, so I've played a variety of roles. I am super excited to go into this new role, to have a little bit more scope and support of teachers. I'll speak a little bit in a bit about some work that we have been doing to share with you. And I have a K1er, and I have an almost 2-year-old, so that keeps me busy when I'm not here. And yeah, just love the ASD community.
Great, thanks Rochelle. And of course, if you've been, you know Miss Vicky was new to us last year, as was Miss Sonal. Very important people in our middle school office. If you phone the office, you get one of those wonderful ladies. If you put an absence in or you don't put an absence in, then you'd likely hear from the office. And as always, they are there and they're a tremendous support. Obviously they can't be here now because the middle school office is busy with all of us over here right now. So I just wanted to go through a couple of structures in the middle school, and the first structure that I actually wanted to go through was something that we spent a good amount of time on last year, was redesigning our common areas. Has anyone walked through the middle school since you've been back this year? You have? And if, well, you will on back to school night. I hope you're all here. We bought all new furniture. If you remember what was in there last year, it was just some tables and some chairs, and it was often disheveled because middle schoolers would just dishevel it. But we got a bunch of purpose-built furniture for students to build community. Much of what we want to try to do is create opportunities for community. You'll see that in our structures too. So some really cool pods, some booths that are sort of, safe and cozy. These are actually pretty safe and cozy as well. Some couches, chairs, tables, and the kids have taken to it. We've reopened the school at lunch, right? Last year, the kids weren't allowed in the school at lunch. They had to go to the cafeteria, and then they could be outside or in the field house or in the library. We've opened the middle school. Right, you can come back in and you can be in your common area, and we have kids playing games together, hanging out. This is a tech-free zone for us at lunch still, so it's really about being community and being together and talking to each other, right? So it's great. Take a walk through, and it's a great place to sit. Next one. I always like to just give everybody a clear sense of how we are structured, right, in our middle school. So certainly you know who we are, but we have a lot of middle level leaders who do a lot of work in our school with us as well, and it's important that you understand who they are. So we're divided, right, into departments by discipline, by subject. We have 10 department chairs who we meet with. We actually met this morning. We meet every Tuesday morning. We start at 7:30. We had that meeting. We also have our grade level leaders, which also had a meeting this morning before this one, with those people coming. Our department chairs really take care of curriculum and assessment, and they work heavily with Rochelle to make sure what we're teaching and what the learning going on is exactly where we want it to be. Susan works a lot with our grade level leaders, so the grade 6 team, 7 team, and 8 team, and this has a lot to do with our logistics, about what's happening, what's going on. We have map testing coming up, we have an assembly coming up, what's happening with those logistics and how do we do it. So some really important people on our faculty who help us really run the school and keep it as organized and consistent as possible. Next one, we'll go through. So. I think it's sometimes important, I know you see it maybe in Power School, but to just get a sense of your child's day in the middle school. So every day they arrive somewhere between 7:45 and 8:10. If you hit it one more time, Sue, they can go to all these places. These are open for students to go to. They can be in the Falcon's Nest, the library, our flexible spaces. They can go to their advisory classroom, and once their advisory teacher arrives, they can go in there. So they can also go to the cafeteria, which I added this year. They can have something to eat in the morning. If they don't have time, they can go and grab something to eat in the cafeteria before class starts. At 8:10, the bell rings, and they need to go towards advisory. This is also the moment at which no phones are allowed anymore. They're away. 8:10 a.m., you're moving advisory. We don't want to see phones anymore. 8:20 to 8:30, they're in their advisory for a check-in with that trusted adult who is their advisor, and that's usually just a quick check-in, that 10 minutes. That's not the advisory programming, but that's a, hey, how you doing? You're here, right? Everyone has a visual check, and off you go to your next class, which then runs, you can go one more, 8:35 to 9:45, and we can probably, all our classes happen. We can run through a few of these. Lunchtime, also, right, all these areas they can be, and including now the middle school common areas as well, where they can come back in and be in those common areas. Another passing time, block 3, passing, and block 4. So that really is our day schedule. There's a pretty good balance to that day happening all the time, right? Time in, time to break, a little bit of time with your friends, back to class, so on and so forth. I do want to talk a little bit more about the flex block, okay? We changed it a little bit this year. This is not a change. Our advisory programming still happens every Monday, right? From that 2:30 to 3:20 time slot. There's 10 to 13 students in the advisory, and that's really our social emotional curriculum. On Tuesdays, this is a reduction. We used to do 2 days of pursuits. We're doing 1 day of pursuits now, and we're very committed to those terms, and we've done some forethought that some of this time will be used as well for our Week Without Walls. Is that correct?
No, on the Wednesday, in the
Just on the
flex
Wednesday,
time.
sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll have dedicated sessions. We have it really mapped out to make sure these pursuits are the same time as well. Last year we had some different times to our pursuits, and we're trying to be consistent with that. They start today, by the way. Maybe actually the kids were pretty excited. I dipped into an advisory on the way here, and they were, pursuit starts today. This is new for us, community flex time. So we took Wednesdays, and we felt that we needed some time that actually got our student body together in the groups that they are with and get to know each other better. I noticed last year when we ran, it was our sustainability summit, kids were in a room like this and they were all from the same house. They were from whatever house, Kestrel House. And they didn't know each other, right? Kestrel, the kids who were in an advisory with each other knew each other, and maybe they knew each other with a friend from a class or something, but as a whole group, they didn't know each other. And so that was something as the year went on, we thought, we need to get our kids together in different groupings other than the small groupings. When we would bring them together for things like a house event, they sat in the bleachers, but they didn't all interact with each other. So out of that need was born this community flex time. So Wednesdays are really going to be dedicated every week to either a whole school assembly, because we need to come together for something big, grade level assemblies, which targets our grade levels a little more specifically, student staff recess, which Miss Susan ran last week, which was a really great success, and that's just what it sounds like. Students and teachers outside playing together or doing whatever. The cafeteria was busy with games and drawing and coloring and just whatever your interest was. Our teachers and students doing it together, and then we'll do our house events here too. And tomorrow we have our first house event, full grade level dodgeball.
Chaos.
Every grade 6 on the
Controlled
floor at
chaos,
the same
like
time.
chaos.
Grade 7 and 8 cheering, and then every grade level will get a chance to participate. Something again that we thought last year, we watched house events and there'd be some students who participated, but most were observers. We want to flip that, right? We want everyone being participants. So we're excited about that. And then access remains, and access was really important to students and teachers last year. We may find at points of the year that we actually add an access, because sometimes students actually say, we want more access time. Could we have? And so we may find some that, and that gives us the flexibility on Wednesdays to do that without having to cancel anything. We don't want to cancel an advisory, we don't want to cancel the pursuits because we need to do something else. So that flex time really gives us that ability to add where we need. Okay? And of course, just be remiss not to mention Week Without Walls. It's back, it's happening, and all our grade levels will be going on similar trips that they went on last year. Okay? Grade 6 will continue going to Greece. Grade 7 will go to Thailand. We'll have the option to go to Thailand. Grade 6 has the option to go to Greece. Grade 8 will have the option to go to Nepal. There will also be a local international, we call Oman. and then we'll have one school option as well, okay? So that's happening. I know there might have been some talk out there that maybe it wasn't. It's happening, okay? More to come when we're ready to launch that, but high school is in the middle of Inspire, so as an institution, we need to make sure we're balancing our finance office and everybody who's involved in running these trips, okay? Really quick, I want to talk about this too. Dr. Drugan has talked about our framework for the future. You may be familiar with it. I just want to go through quickly what the 4 areas are that we are focusing on as a strategic plan for the next 3 years. You've likely seen this before: engage all, inspire all, include all, and nurture all. Okay, there's more to this in the booklet that's available on our Connect page. But I just wanted to talk, if you can go one more, Susan, about the one we're really focusing on in the middle school. So when you think about what we are doing as a faculty, we're learners as well, right? We don't come to this fully cooked as teachers either. We need to continually be improving ourselves, reading new research, what's the best pedagogy, what's the best way, calibrating ourselves, and we do that every Wednesday afternoon. We meet for a good hour and a half. This is going to guide the work that we do with the middle school faculty this year to deliver challenging, inspirational, and purposeful learning through relevant and engaging pedagogy. What that actually means for us is this is the work we're going to do this year. We're really going to have an audit of our written units. We're going to look at all the units we have in the middle school and just get a sense of what is it that we are really teaching a middle schooler, right? We can get very easy in a school, get siloed into your department. I teach social studies, and I know without stepping into science and realizing, oh, they actually teach the same kind of thing. And English language arts, they also teach the same thing. So we want to get a whole look at all of our units to understand what are the big ideas and themes that we're really teaching our middle schoolers, okay? We're going to have a focus on how we plan those units and our approaches to teaching and learning, okay? There are some ways, there's some models to do it. Understanding by design is one. If you're into education or you understand that, that's one way, and that's one we're going to focus on, right? Designing with the end in mind and going through a couple of stages of design. And we're going to recalibrate ourselves as a faculty on how we plan for learning so that our pedagogy is as modern and effective as possible. I mentioned already clarity and consistency. That goes for our faculty too. It was the biggest thing that came forward from them last year. They want clarity and consistency. What are we doing? Why do we do it this way? And can we all please do it in a similar way? And finally, I already mentioned we have the dedicated curriculum position, which is a huge add to our middle school. Okay? So that's kind of the introduction I wanted to give you about our structures and where we're going and where I feel our middle school is heading from my perspective. And I want to hand it over now to the dedicated curriculum person, Rochelle, and she's just going to tell you a couple things that we're doing in terms of curriculum and communicating to you.
Yeah, one thing I should have mentioned is that I'm also a 7th grade advisor, so perhaps I have a 7th grade parent here. I might have your child in my advisory. And so my role primarily is to partner and support teachers in planning units, lessons, assessments, and really aligning our curriculum and our assessment procedures. So I'm going to share, there's 2 things that over the last year we've been working on. And so I'm going to highlight 2 things today. If you can see, I have a little starred note to say we will have another Talk Tuesday specifically about curriculum on October 24th, so if you want to put that in your calendar. But based on feedback from a variety of stakeholders, we have revised the way that we're communicating learning this year. And so in the past, you would get, you may have received feedback about your child's learning in a variety of ways. Tutors give feedback to students all the time in different ways. It may be on Schoology, it may be conferencing with them in class, it may be written comments on assessments. There's lots of different ways that teachers give feedback, and even students give feedback to each other. One thing that we are having some more clarity and consistency on is how you, as parents, are going to receive some of that information. And so report cards used to come with a comment once a year in January, early February, and it was sort of like a summary comment about how your child is doing that first semester. This year, you're going to have comments in PowerSchool, and actually Heather's going to show you what that visually looks like, attached to an actual assessment, which means that the comments and the feedback is attached to the learning that your students are doing. And so just so you are prepared, this semester you'll see 2 comments from each of your child's class. One is actually going to be a comment that your child themselves write. your student writes. And there's lots of research to show that really to internalize feedback, we need to process it and reflect on it and generate our own understanding of it. So one of the comments will be your child writing it, attached specifically to an assessment that they did. And then there's going to be one assessment that the teacher themselves is going to comment on. Also, don't change the slide, but in the next slide I will kind of briefly talk about our standards-based learning approach and our progression of learning. And so a lot of the skills and the learning that happens in the class, students do practice and demonstrate knowledge multiple times in 1 year. So this comment will allow them to think about how they're going to apply that for future learning. Hopefully that makes sense. So like I said, part of the reason we're shifting to this is it's more consistent communication for you and for students and for teachers, and it really aligns with the learning that students are doing in the class as opposed to it being sort of external summary at the end. Along with those two comments, teachers are also going to send an email to families giving you some more context to that assessment. So they'll provide a rubric for you to be able to look how the student actually was assessed on that assessment, and then some questions that you could ask your child about the learning that they did. So you can have that conversation and really engage in learning with your child. A few years ago I did a Talk Tuesday on how to provide feedback at home with your child, and I found that parents really appreciated that because sometimes we don't have the language to support our students with learning at home. And so this email information will give you just some language that you can use with your child to say, hey, you know, where did you really see growth in that learning? Or, you know, where do you think you could have done something differently? All right, so just look forward for that is really how learning is going to be communicated this year through our school. Good. Do you want to add anything to that? And I just wanted, so that was work we did with the committee last year, was teachers and with students to get feedback on that. And so it was a bit of a process to get to that procedure, and that's where we came with some clarity, consistency, and consensus. Another piece of work that we did last year was to revise our achievement level descriptors. If you're new to middle school, if you have a 6th grader or just new to ASD, these words will be new to you, but even if you had a middle schooler in 7th and 8th grade, will be new language for you as well. We work with middle and high teachers, so this is language that both middle school and high school will be using with students to really describe where they are on their learning journey. This is just meant to be a metaphor to help give you some context of what we're talking about. And again, I really wanted to just briefly talk about this because one, it's a change, and two, it's also really great language to use with your child at home to talk about their learning. And the reason we use standards-based, there's lots of reasons why we use standards to drive our learning and teaching, but it really gives really clear learning targets. And it really is a journey. Our goal, our target for all our students is to get them to achieve the learning target. So for this metaphor that we're using right now of riding a bike, once a child can independently ride their bike, they've achieved that learning target. But we are all beginners in lots of things, especially in middle school. There's going to be things students are going to do in their classroom that's brand new to them, right? We're constantly learning. So if there is the word beginning on some of your students' learning, that is really okay because they are beginning their learning journey. And so that would be a child on a trike. That's a good kind of way to compare that to. And then they get a little bit more confident. Maybe they need a little push. My son went to bike camp this summer and he was so excited that he could ride independently, but a few days later he couldn't brake on a road. Bit of a stressful situation. He is not quite achieving riding a bike independently. He is approaching, even though he had a moment of independent pedaling, he's still not quite at the achieving. So that's the approaching. We're not quite there independently being able to do it. And then again, when I can successfully ride my bike with braking, not into an oncoming car, then they're achieving that. All right, and then another language that we're using is exhibiting depth. So those are the students that, yeah, I can do that, and not only can I do that, I can perform some stunts because I want to tie something out, and I really want to go further in I'm learning. I love this thing, and I want to get better and better at it. So exhibiting depth is the language that we're using for that. Hopefully that gives kind of a clear picture, and again, just emphasizing that learning is a journey for all of us. And we really are going to support students to achieve what those learning targets are in each of their classrooms that they're doing. And there will be lots of opportunities for students to practice and to demonstrate exhibiting depth in those areas as well.
Rochelle, if I can, I think it's important to note the change that you helped bring in, and that was changing language at that beginning level. It used to read limited, which we don't feel is a positive approach to language, right? To tell a child that limited is not through a lens of an asset base, right? It's a deficit base, and certainly beginning is an asset base. It's a strength base, right? You are beginning. We all are beginners at some point, like you said. So thanks, Rochelle, for the work you did on that last year.
Thank you. Looking forward to meeting more of you later.
Heather, I didn't introduce you at the beginning, so I'll introduce you. You may know Heather Roy. She's been here for a number of years, helped running our tech platforms and so on, and she'll give you a little introduction to the platforms you should be aware of in the middle school.
Great, thank you.
Do you want to control or
there's
you
a
want
big,
me
you
to
go ahead,
control?
it's okay,
Yeah?
it's good, yeah,
Okay,
it's
there
good,
we
there
go.
I am. So I am the technology integrator here at in the middle school. I have been K-12. I have worked in both elementary and middle school in the past. When I first joined ASD 8 years ago, I had 2 boys in elementary school. They are now both in high school. So trauma is real. So I've gone through those phases of understanding the different learning management things that we have in place, how we communicate with you both as a parent and as the tech coordinator. So we'll just go in there. And so my goal today is to talk about our 2 core tools that we'll be using to communicate what our students are doing and how our students are doing. So the 2 tools that we have PowerSchool. That is where the how are they doing will be. That is where you will find your child's assessments, as well as any information about lates and or tardies and absences. And of course their schedule is in there as well, which is really valuable for the kids. But knowing that this is your source of how your child is doing in their classes. PowerSchool is the what are they doing. So when you go into PowerSchool, in Schoology, we will have the resources that they need for class. It will have information about what they're studying in class, any routines, any upcoming dates, and as well as classroom activities will be happening inside of Schoology. As a parent, you have access to both of these tools through your parent login information. So just so you're aware, in Schoology, there are some things that you'll be able to see as a parent and some things that you won't be able to see versus your child. Obviously, your child is able to see and interact with their classmates, but for privacy purposes, obviously you are not able to see anything that any other child has posted, so that's very important. When you go in, you'll have available all the classroom resources and information about assignments, as well as any deadlines. You'll also be able to see on the calendar, which I'll show you in a little bit, how that all looks for all the deadlines that are coming up. But you won't be able to see the work that your child is submitting, because of course this is their work and they're submitting that. You won't be able to see any classroom discussions. We will not be using Schoology for grades. So again, PowerSchool is your source for grades. Schoology will be a great source for feedback and the ongoing work, but the source of truth for what the grade is will be in PowerSchool. And of course, you won't be able to see any postings by any other students. So if there's a discussion board, you can see what your child has posted, you can see what the question was, but you won't be able to see what the other kids have posted, just for security purposes. Okay. So when you first go into Schoology, you'll be able to see all of your child's classes. You'll be able to see any upcoming work. If you're in the mobile version, this is what it would look like on your phone. And you'll note that you're in the right place because you'll see that you're viewing. Student Test Demo is my 3rd child. My husband often complains about all the notifications we get for Student Test Demo because of course I use my family account for all the testing for what a family would see. So Student Test Demo has a lot of overdue work and gets in trouble a lot. But that's okay, that's why we have Student Demo for. So when I first log in, I need to select that I want to look at that student specifically, and then this is the view I will be able to see. We'll go to the next one. If you pick a class from that list, you'll then enter and you'll be able to see all the classroom materials that are available to your child. We have picked a certain color coding, again, to help kids with organization, so that when they jump from class to class, they don't have to think about how did my teacher organize it here? Wait, how did my teacher organize it here? We actually are using color coding to help reduce that load, that cognitive load that we have. So things that are finished will be in gray, things that are active will be blue, and then anything above is what they're working on at this time, and then the teacher will move it into the folder later. So visually they know, I'm going up here. And with middle school, we may even have them turn off folders. So there may be old units that you can't see at all, and we've just done that again to reduce the visual load for kids so they're not seeing a ton of stuff on there, they just know what they really need to focus on. And finally, everyone has an orange classroom folder, and that's where you can learn more about the teacher. Classroom routines will be there, curriculum information will be there as well. Probably at back to school night, they'll bring that up so that you're aware of what they put in there as well. Right. And then finally, notifications are really important. Again, student fake demo, my goodness. But what you can do is sign up for notifications, and I find this really incredibly helpful. So you get a daily email that gives you an update on any upcoming work, overdue work, and any messages the teacher has sent out. And what I really like is the fact that you can pick the time you want it to come. So you can decide, well, when's the time I actually check in my email, so you can make sure it's maybe come just then, so you remember to take a peek. Personally, I find this more helpful for me than trying to open up the class and go through it. This gives me the quick summary of what's up. So I highly, highly recommend that you sign up for this, and I've got some information about how you can do that if you haven't. And you also have the ability to sign up for notifications when something is overdue and hasn't been submitted. So there's been a few times where my younger son has heard me yelling upstairs, "Hey, it's 6 o'clock, apparently you didn't hand something in, where is it?" And he'd be like, "Oh no!" And so he'll finish up and get that done. But it's kind of nice to get that email actually right away to say it's 6 p.m. and that gives them time to sort it out and figure out what, and a lot of times it's just because they forgot to click submit. It's not that they haven't done the work, they have. They've just forgotten to do that last step. So that's what moms are for, right? Did you remember to hit submit? Power School is, again, our source of information for your grades. And what's really nice now is you can log in with Google. So again, when you're using your family account, it's one less password you have to remember. You can just click login with Google. Again, that makes things so much easier. We do want you to be aware, we always need to bring this up, Schoology app is not compatible with the complexity that we have built into the ASD version of Power School. We have a lot of other cool things that we've built into it that the app does not recognize. You can go directly to the website for Power School and look at it on your phone, but please don't download the app because you won't see what you need to see. So we ask people not to use that. Okay, and just very quickly, if you open up Power School, you notice we don't have the grades on the first page. And we've done that on purpose because, number one, we don't want kids just jumping in and out all the time to see if their grade has changed. And we also want them to dig in a little deeper. Also, we want you to be aware that you can go directly to their Schoology class from here as well. So if you decide, oh wait, I want to take a peek, clicking on here will take you to the Schoology class. If you click on the I, and that'll be on the next one, this will take you through, whoops, back one.
Yep.
There we go.
Oh, there we go.
This will actually help you understand what the standards were and the expectations, so you get context rather than just a single number, which doesn't tell you everything that you need to know about how your kids are doing.
And this is where the comment will be.
And
You
this is
point
where the
that-
comments, yes.
And so that column was often blank for you last year. This is where you will see that. There'll just be a little, it'll be
A check, I think, that
a check,
goes
and
here.
then you can hover or click on it, and that will pop the comment up
Yep.
that the teacher has put.
Yes, and you'll be able to see what the standards are, what level they've achieved, how they're doing in the academic achievement. So this is the greater understanding of how things are happening rather than a single number. And then finally, don't forget please that this is also where we do attendance. So please make sure that you go into Schoology, you just click on the attendance management. It's really super easy. You just click on, we'll go one more. And so you just, once you've clicked attendance, you just click on the menu, you get attendance, report an absence, and one more. And then you'll be able to pick in here why. And what I love about this is if I know my child has a dentist appointment next week, I can fill that in now while I remember. And so I don't have to worry about on the day of when you've got 5 kajillion other things on your brain to remember to fill this in. So if you've done this, then it makes things a lot easier. Same thing if you know your family is going to be away one day or there's an appointment in the morning. Fill this out ahead of time because we are really strict about making sure we know where your child is. And so if a teacher fills in absent and we don't have a reason why, the office is going to contact you right away to find out what's happened. So fill this in ahead of time. Do it the night before. You're like, oh, she is not going to school. You can fill that in the night before. Okay? Great.
Okay.
And also, just to let you know, yep, sir, we will be doing some digital citizenship themes. We work really hard. One of the things I always say is middle school kids have a lot of technology skills and no common sense. Our job is to help with the common sense part. So we will be working on that throughout the year, making sure that our kids are aware of how to use technology responsibly. Already we've gone through our responsible use policy at ASD, as well as understanding social media laws here in the UAE. So we've already covered that already this year. All right? And finally, we ask, please, your ASD family email is for you, for parents only. Please do not give your child access to that. We assume when we're communicating in there that we're communicating with you, and we prefer that emails that maybe aren't positive don't go missing. So please make sure that you're the only person, you laugh. Please make sure that you're the only people who have access to that. Please give your child a tech-free area to do their homework. I mean, obviously they've got their laptop, but the phone away is a great idea. And at nighttime especially, we talk about that common sense. 3 a.m. is completely out the window. So please make sure your child does not have any devices in their room overnight. Have a nice charging space somewhere in the house away from the room, and that way their laptop is at 100%. If you need their phone to be at 100%, it is, and they're going to make it through the day, and it's also away and in a safe spot. So we ask that really hard. Really, we stress that one a big time, especially in middle school. Make sure there's no devices in their room if you can avoid that. And finally, make sure that you do discuss what the laptop expectations are so you're clear with them. We've tried really hard, especially in grade 6. We've asked that you keep it as tight as you can, that only school resources are available on their laptop, that they don't have games, that they don't have any other extensions, VPNs, etc. on their device. Let's try and help them focus. That's one way we can do that. All right? And finally, if you want our technology guide, if you're not sure how to connect your calendar, if you're not sure how to access Odoo, you're not sure how to get signed up for the notifications, it's all in this document. Great.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, I put a couple slides
Yeah,
in
yeah,
for the
I
other
saw.
things. So, two last things as we get through our agenda: partnerships, culture, trust, and then we'll talk a little bit about phones and social media. I'm trying as much as we can also to put our values in focus. So as I talk about this is really to me about integrity and responsibility. If you can go to the next one, Susan. Okay, our middle school handbook is here, and a lot of our procedures, okay, are here. And I call them procedures because that's really what they are. We have sometimes we use the word policies, but policies are more sort of at our school board level. We proceduralize everything we do here, right? Our phones and so on and so forth. I'd like you to have a look at this because this is what grounds us when we do find ourselves in situations that require trust. And to be honest, sometimes those are difficult situations. And we have middle schoolers, and they will find themselves in difficult situations at times. Things that maybe decisions they make, or maybe decisions that were made and they are a recipient of a decision. We need to make sure we have a trust. And I always like to take a moment at this time of year to ask for your trust and share with you that much of the work that Susan and I will do always keeps the integrity of the individual at the center of it, their dignity, okay? And that means that when there is a situation and it may involve your child, you won't know everything. You won't know all of the conversations that I have or that Susan has. If I have a situation I will deal with you and your child, then you'll know something else is happening. But we need a level of trust that we are going to act and do. We will respect the dignity of your child and your family. We won't share that with another and say, oh, well, yeah, that student, that child, here's what they did, and here's the consequence, and everybody doesn't get to know all of that, okay? What I guarantee you is that we thoroughly go through everything, and we put the best interest of every child and every family at the center of what we do. And there are difficult decisions sometimes that we're involved in. And sometimes we just have to make a decision, and we will always we will put the dignity of every individual at the center of that, okay? But that involves a level of trust, because there are things that you're not going to know potentially, okay? And I ask that you extend that trust to us and know that we're going to do the absolute best we can every day. With that, I think it's important that we just recalibrate ourselves about who are these individuals we're dealing with every day in the middle school. So this is a really quick video just to talk about the brains of middle schoolers.
Whoops,
Oh.
sorry. Nope. There we go.
Thanks.
The key to really understanding the teenage brain is to understand it's still under construction. So it might be helpful to understand the structure of your brain. You really have three brains inside your head. The brain at the bottom, often called the reptilian brain, is your survival brain. It keeps your heart beating, keeps you breathing. It's the home of fight, flight, or freeze. But just understand it's the survival brain. On top of that, we have the emotional brain, often called the mammal brain because you have to be a mammal to have this emotional brain. And then the last brain is one that's going to control your emotions, understand consequences. That part of the brain's not really going to be constructed or online until well into your 20s. So the key to understanding the teenage brain is to understand we're really dealing with this emotional brain. It is normal for teenagers to see the world in a way that's much more based on feeling than is based on thinking. The key really to communicating with a teenager is to make sure you speak to that emotional brain before you give your thinking strategy.
You can discover more on the Spark Their Future website.
So really simple, but also very complex. Because when students come into our offices, or we're dealing with them in the counseling office, or just in the regular classroom, the emotions that your children and our students feel are real, right? And sometimes they're overwhelming for us as parents. I know I have 3 teenagers, 1 at school and still 2 here. They're real. And so we will deal with them always trying to get their emotional brain, knowing that they don't always have the logic to know that what you did was wrong, because they're living in their emotions, okay? And that leads us a little bit to how we actually approach discipline and behavior at school, and it is through a positive behavioral expectations. We're always trying to work with students to understand to get to that thinking brain, to help develop it to what you did, recognizing that the emotions that they have are real. And yes, you feel that that person was mean to you, and that's real for you, okay? And working through that. We always want to be able to get to a point where students are, though, taking responsibility, and that was the other core value I put here, okay? Getting to understand that, yes, all of our actions, while that's emotional for you, your actions also had an impact on someone else's emotions, and you have to understand what those are, okay? And so often when we're dealing with situations, they're not quick, okay? They may feel quick to us as parents, and I know they can to me as well. Well, that student did this, and I want that to happen. Well, there's always a little bit more to it, all right? Everybody needs to have a conversation. Everybody needs to understand why these things have happened. And that, again, is that level of trust I ask that you extend to us so that we take the time to be able to listen to everybody, understand what has gone on, and then make good decisions based on that, okay? With that, I'm going to turn it over to Miss Susan, who's going to talk a little bit about our phones and social media. And you have been sitting for a while, and I think we're going to
we'll get up and move. I know, and this is such a good topic to end with. And I know something like phones and social media could be an hour, 2-hour topic all onto itself. Same as I said, I have a 14-year-old, and we're very much navigating as a family what phones and social media mean to him and what they mean to us and our value system as a family, and it's a long conversation. So know that this is an ongoing conversation, but what I love about this presentation is it's all about a partnership, and it's all about us working together to support your child, to develop that thinking brain, and to make good decisions, and we'll continue with that partnership. Know also that I think I know it's in October, I don't know the exact date, but the middle school counselors will also be doing a Talk Tuesday session about how they partner, because as you know, they're very integral in supporting the emotional lives of our teenagers and helping navigate what they're dealing with, all right? So as I said, the idea of this is really just to get you guys thinking about some of the things you're facing and dealing with right now, some of the things you probably assume you're going to be facing and dealing with right now, because we all are at different levels when it comes to phones and social media and whatnot. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to do something called a 4 corners scenario. So you're going to get up and move, and the whole goal of this is so you can have a conversation with people that are probably living a similar experience that you are, or have navigated similar things to you, and have an opportunity to talk to them about it. So in the corner of the rooms, and I'll explain, you are going to see 4 different scenarios. And quite honestly, Mike and I talked about these, and these are things that we as parents deal with. These are things that we as educators kind of get handed to us to help navigate. So that's why we chose these 4. So when I go through them, what you're going to do, I'm going to go through what the 4 scenarios are. I'll tell you where they are. And then you will decide which of the scenarios resonates most with you in your current experience. Which is the one that maybe you're living right now, which is the one you think you're going to be living very soon, or which is the one you just really would love to talk to somebody else about. And based on that, you will choose a corner of the room. And then when you get to that corner of the room, you will find someone to partner with. You could go into a small group. I'd ask that you introduce yourself. Just, my name is Susan, I've got a grade 9 boy, whatever it is, so we have a little bit of understanding what's going back to that partnership, and we'll take about 4 minutes to discuss why that specific scenario resonated with you and how you're addressing it in your home, or how you perceive you might address it because you may not be living it right now. Does that make sense? So pretty simple. Okay, so the scenarios. The first scenario is your child is texting constantly. They say it is school related, but it's all drama. Okay? That's the blue corner, which is right over here. All right? The next scenario is your child has joined a WhatsApp group. And when you're reviewing it, there's a lot of inappropriate language and content. I review my son's stuff all the time. Maybe you do as well. So that is the pink corner over there. Okay? The next one, which is the green back there, is your child complains about constantly being removed and added from a group on Snapchat and people being unkind to them. So I'm in the group, then I'm out of the group, then I'm back in the group, then I'm out of the group. That's the green corner over there. And the last one, which is the orange corner over there in the back, is your child comes home from school, goes to their room with their phone and computer, and stays inside with the door closed for hours. So, some might resonate immediately, some might terrify you and think, oh my gosh, what am I getting into? Lots of different emotions, I'm sure, but this is an opportunity, as I said, for you just to discuss with someone. So once again, I'll just remind you, the blue corner, your child's texting constantly. You know it's a drama, they say it's not. The pink corner over here, a WhatsApp group with inappropriate content, things that you're not okay with. The next one, the green back there, added to a group, removed from a group, added to a group, lots of unkindness. And the final one over there goes and locks themselves in their room with their devices and doesn't come out. So we'll take about 4 minutes, but I ask you to stand up, move into those spaces, and I'll signal you when we are done, all right? Which one resonates with you? All right, if I could just have, I just want to be really sensitive to your time, because I know you've given time to be here, and we're about 3 minutes away from the end. And it's amazing, like as I said, we could have probably stood and talked about that for hours and hours, and it's hard. As parents, it's challenging. As educators, it's challenging. I mean, we sat in a group before and had a conversation about kids who don't even have a phone yet and how parents are navigating that. And that wasn't even a scenario that was up here. How do I hold out as long as I can when it comes to things like that, And it's such a balancing act, and I can say this from experience because I don't ever want my son's access to a phone, or lack of access, because we're pretty strict in my home, to be a detriment to his ability to socialize and to impact his sense of belonging in this community, especially as a new student who's trying to navigate friendships. So how do we find that balance? And I'm not going to pretend that any of you found the answer. If you did, please send me an email and I'll send it to everybody, because we don't necessarily have the answers. We don't. And that's why I think the whole premise of this talk being a partnership, it's a partnership. Like, counselors are willing to talk about this, we're willing to talk about this. I can tell you what school is doing as of right now, and Heather talked about it a little bit with the different themes of the month around technology, cyberbullying, the technology agreements. We have school-supported applications that we have, like Gmail and things like that. We have the no phone policy from 8:10 to 3:20. I will just reiterate, because it came up in our conversation, like what happens if a student is caught using their phone, and we know they're sneaky sometimes and we don't know about it, but when they are caught using their phone's taken away and it comes to the office. They can't have it back until they meet with me. The second time, the parents come in to get the phone, because then it allows us to have a little bit of a bigger conversation and to once again partner in that. We, as Heather said, have just finished doing Understanding Responsible Technology Use at ASD and in United Arab Emirates. The digital citizenship that Heather talked about, the monthly different themes. Our second step advisory lessons touch on some of this digital citizenship. And then as a school, responding to issues
within the school, that happen in the school, or impact the social navigation of students when they're in the school. Okay? So it's not clean, it's not simple, which was clear with our conversation about how to even navigate a phone, but please know we're here to partner in this. The one thing I will say, and this is my plug, I feel like I need to work for Lisa D'Amour because all I ever do is plug her books. I don't know if anyone has read The Emotional Lives of Teenagers. I would so highly, highly recommend this book. I've read so many books about, child psychology from a parent standpoint, from an educator standpoint. The biggest thing I love about her books is she doesn't just say research. She actually gives evidence-based information and then tangible action items. As far as like, how do you verbalize to your child who is falling apart, that you see that they're falling apart, you accept their emotions, but what can we do to get past it? So it's excellent. The QR code is a bit of ideas around phones and technology. So I actually took some information from this book specifically, because the whole book is not about social media and phones. So I consolidated just some of her thoughts around phones and social media. She has another book called Untangled, and it's about raising adolescent females. I only have a boy, I have one child, and I read it, and it was so useful and applicable. I mean, it talks about raising adolescent females, but it's raising adolescents. And it was, so if from another support standpoint, I would absolutely recommend those. But once again, just know that we're here in partnership. Any way you can support us, and then we'll work to support you on the other end, okay? Anything else you wanted to add to that, Mike?
One thing that Lisa D'Amour talked about when she talked to our community too, and I read some of her stuff, is that idea that particularly our middle school students, when they come home to you, they're coming home to dump to you, and they don't always want you to take an action, right? And sometimes I think our emotions can get involved because it's our child and they've been harmed, and we want there to be an action right away because my child was harmed. Often they're coming home just because they've kept it up all day, and all they want is a safe space to know they can dump it. And you're going to be there and you're going to say, it's okay, we got this, and give it 24 hours and let the emotions, settle, and then we'll think about what we're going to do. And so I ask you to be there. We need your partnership in that, to be there for your child, to be able to dump that, and then we'll move slowly, we'll move forward slowly, okay? But often, they just want the safe space, okay?
So thank you very, very much for coming. As I said, there will be another council one. Check the Connect. I know that stuff just came out yesterday because I get it as a parent. Check the schedule because there will be more on technology. There also will be the counselor one where they talk about social emotional well-being, and we know students can't learn if their social emotional is not in a good place. So that's another one from a partnership standpoint that I would definitely recommend if you're available to attend. All right, and know that I think I speak for Mike and myself, work very much from an open door concept. So if there's ever anything, please reach out. Once again, it's better if we're working together on something. So if there's something you want to talk over, something you want to address, don't hesitate to reach out to Vicky or Sono so they can book a time for us. And we can tackle the crazy world of middle school together, because it is a little crazy. Okay?
Thank you, everybody, for coming.